Stock exchanges globally are in the midst of a paradigm shift, and Indian capital markets are fast maturing. But what role are developments across currency markets specifically playing in propelling India's growth story? To shed more light on the subject, we caught up with the Managing Director and CEO of Metropolitan Stock Exchange, Latika Kundu. Now, Latika, this of course marks your second stint at the Metropolitan Stock Exchange. Broadly speaking, between the two tenures, what's changed and what do you consider to be some of the most major milestones in its growth story as an exchange?
Wow, that's a lot of questions you put together, but I would like to take time answering each one of those.
Please.
And I think most importantly, when I look back, of course, it's the second stint is, earlier it was like a startup, but now it's a re-startup, I would say, because we have to get back into the game, get back rolling. And that is what we have been working on for the last 3 years, is from 0 to 1.
Sure.
And looking forward, the journey is from 1 to 10. So how I would probably further elaborate on that is that we have actually seen that you need to clean back the slate, and that's when it becomes a re-startup.
Absolutely.
And build it back, make it more stable, formidable, strengthen across areas, whether it is internal, whether it is external relations. It is actually saying that, okay, where do we stand in terms of competition? Where do we stand in the industry? What is the current view? And what is it that we're really looking to be? And what is the landscape that the country has to offer?
Sure.
So when we map out, things, obviously that comes in as the background thinking, and then says that if we really need to move ahead, and which we have in the last 3 years, when I say 0 to 1, is mainly ensuring that our processes, our employees, our stakeholders, the focus has been across each of these categories, internal as well as external. And that was much required, along with building the business. Looking at India being such a large landscape, we said yes. So, but before we can really jump into the 1 to 10, which is what we will look doing in the future, we had to create the solid foundation, a clean, solid foundation, get back the trust of the shareholders, other stakeholders, internal employee, and that has been the main portion, I would say, that we have stressed on and we have tried to work on, while we have also been starting to build the business. We were close to 0 probably at some point of time, even in terms of our market share.
Right.
We do at least have a line in the pie, at this juncture. And many a times I tell people, I said, when I started, it was a broken boat, which was probably 5 kilometers from the whirlpool.
Sure.
And we have been able to consolidate, clean up, make it more formidable, build trust and relationships in such a manner that at least now we are not broken. We are still small, but we are further away from the whirlpool.
Absolutely.
So that is the entire way we look at this build out, and that's how we want to move forward.
Well, ma'am, you've set the context well. And if I were to get to your personal journey now, you've enjoyed an illustrious career, right? That has spanned several jurisdictions, and you've worked with the SEBI on more than one occasion. For the benefit of our viewers, how would you characterize that experience?
Well, the entire journey, when, it's like you say that when you look forward, they seem like dots, but actually when you look back, you can actually put it all together.
Right.
And probably that sums up in a way in which my journey has been. It started by just dabbling into capital markets almost 30 years back, 28 to be precise. And then it became a passion that I could never think of being away from. So creating marketplaces globally, here, internally, has been part of that very exciting journey, with many challenges, of course, a mixed bag of challenges, some known, some are intriguing, which come in a different form. and it's just about taking them in stride every time they come along. Because when you're creating a marketplace, and I still feel there's a lot more to be done.
Sure.
It is just the beginning. I don't know whether I still call it a long journey, but I would say lots more has yet to be done and achieved in creating marketplaces. Markets have become electronic, but now is where the transformation is required. They need to move to the next level. We are not going to look at markets in the same way that we see them 10 years from today.
Sure.
According to me, market structures, all frameworks, products that are there, the kind of participants that will be there will be far more different. The depth of the market, what market will be actually giving back to the society as a whole, will be a different perspective. It is not what we see today.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk more about that because domestic capital markets today are fairly well developed. But what's your take on the competitive landscape? Has competition matured to the level required?
The exchange was set up for competition, and competition is something which is very central to our own ethos. And when we talk about the landscape of India, that there's definitely more marketplaces that can come in because there's far many more people to reach out to.
Sure.
We have not even scratched the surface as of now as far as the depth of the market goes, or as far as I would say, how many people are really participating in the Indian capital market today. So definitely from the landscape in terms of the market size, there's much more. It's like too enormous. This market can grow to a multi-fold size and to a huge depth across not only how many people it takes within the market, but also the kind of products, the diversity, that can get offered.
Sure.
So the scope, and it is not necessary, in fact, it is not even prudent enough for a single marketplace to provide so much.
Right.
So there should be multiple marketplaces because that ensures good quality, good service, lower costing. Today our markets are one of the most expensive. And to bring that all down, it has to be a competitive landscape. There have to be multi-players. So to make that happen, you have to have ease of process.
Right.
Simple, clear, not very complex. If I want to be a market participant at 3 different marketplaces, exchanges, or 5, or how many of our multiple platforms they may be, it should not be a hassle for me.
Right.
It should be a one-time process. Let each of them come in and fetch that information of mine.
Sure.
Whether I'm the final leg of the participant or I'm an intermediate person who is providing it to somebody. Because markets are not going to grow just unilaterally. They're not just going to be in one direction. It is going to be multifold. It is going to be people participating directly and indirectly.
Sure.
They are not going to be just, they will use mutual funds, they will use insurance, they will use so many different other products which will come into the market.
What's the key to eliciting more market participation as you reference? And how do you split the arena by way of direct versus indirect channels?
See, the way to bring in more is, of course, education is one of the very key things. When we say education, it's not just about the products which are available, but also the risk factors which
Sure.
are there, so that when people come into, it's like saying, when I'm taking a home loan, because that's something most people can relate to more easily, I will think through about the EMIs, my earning capacity, what is the period, my age,
Right.
correct? A retirement zone as a normal, very general. This is the, few factors that will come to my mind. Besides the fact that, the interest rates could change. So am I taking a flexible, fixed? What are the different ways in which, and who am I taking it with?
Of course.
What am I doing down payment? What are the other costs I have? When you come into the market, it is a little more complex. So understanding that you will not necessarily participate directly. That is why encouragement is always done, that you come through other people who understand markets, professionals who understand
Right.
markets a little more in depth. And that too, when they will be able to tell you, go in for broader indexes or whatever. So there's
Sure.
different ways. So you're saying that you're understanding the different products, you're understanding the risk associated, but you also need to understand where do you get your source of information.
Yes.
Who do you trust when you actually come and participate in the market? So this is all part of the investor education that is very, very important, in addition to the other points which I mentioned about cost as well as ease of entering into the market. But this is a very, very big piece that is very essential.
Well, ma'am, sitting at the helm, right, of the Metropolitan Stock Exchange, you certainly wear many hats. What do you consider to be your top focus areas at the moment, and how do you expect them to evolve in, say, the medium term or the long term?
Of course, the top priority is building business back, being a formidable competitor in the marketplace, and that is what drives maximum onto the mind. To have that, we need to have strategic partners. We need to ensure that we do have products also which are not there commonly available across other marketplaces, but there are
Absolutely.
also some unique products.
Right.
So, working on those strategies, working on a longer term plan in terms of what we can offer, what is also the investments
Right.
that go in. And because finally it is very capital intensive business. So you need to look at all these aspects when you're saying that how is it that you actually flow down in terms of getting into a formidable space. So we have focused on the currency markets. That is what we had launched also as initially as an exchange, and that's where we put our focus back. But we know that now is the time where the 1 to 10 part has to come in.
Sure.
And we have to look at expansion. We have to look at growth from other segments, other products. They may or may not be there currently in the market also.
Well, what's your comment on current retail footprint, or, for example, the current corporate footprint when it comes to the currency derivatives market specifically?
The retail and the corporate footprint is, I would still say, minimal compared to what it can grow to. It is still more within the first layer of, where you have banks or you have other institutions participating.
Right.
And you need to expand, because that's where the education, that's where the risk understanding, because people are still more in the Indian markets comfortable with equities.
Right.
That also is not beyond a point.
Sure.
Because developed markets are talking about 55% of their population directly and indirectly investing in the capital markets.
Right.
And we are a far cry from that. We are not even at 10% of that, literally. Even though there may be more demat accounts, but we know that many of them are multiple accounts, and many of them, so it has improved. Yes, it is not that the market has not improved, of course, or has not gained depth. It has gained,
Sure.
but there is much more. There's much more to be done at a much more exponential rate.
Well, if I could ask you to do some crystal ball gazing for a moment and offer us a sneak preview into the future, how do you anticipate that domestic capital markets will evolve? And what do you think are going to be some of the drivers behind that change?
So one of the key things I feel will play is technology. And technology has always been a game changer. And that's when you saw, markets moving from open outcry to electronic, it was that. Now is where another paradigm shift is, meant to happen. And I know it will. I have been talking about it for the last couple of years now, because I feel one of the key technologies which is there is blockchain.
Sure.
I'm not talking on the crypto side, not the uses of it, but I'm saying just the base technology per se.
The ledger.
That itself has, it has a power to be able to change the market structures. Probably it may seem awkward today, but I don't think it's possible that in 10 years' time you just have exchanges and depositories. You may not even need clearing corporations,
right,
as a market structure. So when you're looking at that kind of a game, change, you're looking far beyond T+1. India has, of course, done way ahead in terms of all those, aspects, in terms of we are way ahead in terms of what we have provided to globally, and we have the potential to become market leaders in the way we look at market space. So that's where we need to say that, okay, can we be the ones who will bring about the change in the market structures, in the regulatory structures even more dynamically, and thereby the products that get offered.
Sure.
So the market spans increases in that sense.
Absolutely.
I feel that is where the future lies. That's exactly where it lies.
Well, ma'am, if we were to look into the past for a moment, in the aftermath of this global health crisis, do you believe that market activity and market participation has truly rebounded to pre-pandemic levels, or do we still have a way to go?
Markets, if you're talking about market movement in terms of prices and indices, that happens perpetually. That is a perpetuity, right? That is what the market is for.
Sure.
But in terms of participation, market participation has always increased. It has definitely, and it has increased in this pandemic at a much higher pace. And that's where we see a significant difference in terms of not only even more participants, different types of participants come in, and sometimes some of them, I feel that, a more education focus has been given.
Sure.
Regulator has taken care of those aspects as to how much more education can go in, how much, understanding, so that people do not get wary.
Right.
They do not draw back. They continue to participate.
Yeah.
Because every aspect, even if you put in an FD, you put in your money into any other products, it will have its risk. It will have, it's just that some of them are more stated, some of them are understated. So
Right.
that's the difference. But understanding that, so the education part has been something that has been a focus across all the intermediaries, all MIIs, or because of regulator giving that kind of focus, and which is the right focus, because that is extremely important for market to develop correctly and to grow in a bigger way.
And if I were to ask you to, essentially look inwards for a moment at the Metropolitan Stock Exchange, right? And the fact of the matter is that it's a very competitive job market in spite of recent geopolitical activity, right? So what's the key to attaining and retaining top talent at MSE?
Well, I think the key factors are always that the culture always runs from the top. And it is the responsibility of leadership to be able to run that through the company. People are always comfortable when they know that things are taken within a discipline and integrity. Those become the two key factors, and that has been the key factors for us with a common goal.
Right.
And the common goal for MSE has always been MSE first. So, and when we say MSE first, we don't mean it is at number one today. We mean that MSE always comes ahead of everything that we can think of. When we think for the organization first. What is beneficial for the organization first? So when that is very clear mandate with every employee, they know that that is what they are working towards.
Right.
Their suggestions should come in, they come in that manner. When they're thinking, because there's always a consultative process. SEBI believes in the, consultative process. And that's when then they will put in that thinking. Okay, does this make it more competitive? Does the landscape, does MSE get the chance to go ahead? So that is where then even the output starts coming. And that's where, so I feel that becomes a very big bonding. And that is what creates for retaining good talent, good skill, taking care of them in every aspect. But this becomes a very key aspect in retaining. And that has been something that we have really spent time on, besides having other motivational, drives. Like we started when, we joined, it was already 12 years, but we realized that there were many people who had worked for more than 10 years in the organization.
Right.
And they had, so they needed to be given some kind of, acknowledgement.
Sure.
So we had a Samman program set up from the first year onwards. And for 3 years it has been on. And last year we introduced also an award program. So that there is some amount of positive motivation, and it's across. So there are many such programs that we keep doing, keep engaging with employees on another, just more on a social, on a non-work level,
Right.
so that there is a, personal conversations that we can have, because that gives a different level of inputs which you will not get through the normal hierarchical strata.
Sure.
And
sure.
yes, we are a very flat organization.
Well, ma'am, it seems like the team truly understands its mission and its vision, right?
Yes.
But how would you characterize the team's individual strengths, or perhaps the team's strengths as a unit?
Each person of the team, right from the leadership to team leads to the teams that, they are very, the focus has been on the skill sets, their experience, what they bring to the table, the openness of being candid and being very upfront with not just saying what's wrong, but also saying these are the ways we can solve.
Right.
So that is encouraged across the board, that anybody can come with a solution. And that is what, so it's more like, I would say, empowerment to the entire team, to right from, from every aspect, because the potential lies in everyone. It is on, team leads, on us as leadership to be able to say that, these people have these qualities, or this person has this unique quality, and how can we help enhance it?
Right.
So those are the aspects that we also like to take care of.
And ma'am, if we were to speak to a Metropolitan Stock Exchange employee, a member of your team, how do you believe they would characterize your leadership style, or a management philosophy you perhaps live your life by?
The single word that comes to me is empowerment, which I just mentioned. And I feel because they know that, those are the few things that, that is the basic thing that actually says that, yes, we are all in it together. Right. We work together. And when we work together, there is no fear about saying, it's not about saying I'm singling out anybody. A mistake can be made by anybody.
Right.
And at the same time, a great credit can be, that does not mean we neutralize it. Of course, where credit is due, it is due. And it must be given, it must be recognized.
Sure.
And that's why the Samman and the award ceremonies, all those are part of the whole thing. So I don't know what specific may come out of their minds, as long as they realize that the main mantra for me is MSE first.
And ma'am, by way of closing comments, right, when it comes to the toughest decisions in business, do you believe that they are best taken as a team or at the top level?
Decision making, I believe, is a process, and inputs should always be taken from wherever we can. We should not leave that out at all. It has to be a team. Decision making finally gets done, yes, because the larger picture is more known at the top. That does not mean that it only happens there, but yes, the most strategic or crucial decision making would probably take place at that level. But it takes place practically on an everyday basis at every team also, because they know that, finally, if this is the focus, this is what I need to achieve, and this is what I need to resolve. It does not necessarily have to escalate, right? So they are empowered enough to make their own decisions too.
Sure.
But it's a multi-level. It will not be one or the other. It will be both, according to me.
All right. Well, ma'am, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, and we wish you and team all the continued success at the Metropolitan Stock Exchange.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me over.